we doing, everybody? This is Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert, a NASCAR podcast. NASCAR's 3 Series will be primed and ready to go at the Last Great Colosseum in Bristol, baby. Hungry drivers from the Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup Series would be roaring to go in Thunder Valley. Storylines for the weekend would be, with Kyle Larson tempting yet another three-peat weekend, he will be a threat to win each of the races. Can he? Truck Series, would we see a battle between Larson and Heim, or would one of the other full-time truckers take it home? Xfinity, we saw what happened the last time they raced at a half-mile track. Can we expect some of the other younger drivers in the series to find some respect? Cup Series, with Denny Hamlin having the hot hand currently, winning the last 2 weekends in Martinsville and in Darlington. Can he make it 3 in a row, or can the likes of Larson or William Byron take him down? That's not all. We have exclusive interview with ARCA driver Kole Raz before he takes on Rockingham, giving us some insider information, discussions with Dave, and so much more on this episode of Splash of Gas. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, a.k.a. Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He'll be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He can be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are each Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert. Please check that out for on-track and midweek updates. Now for the Truck Series recap. Rain would be in the Thunder Valley area Friday afternoon. The truck qualifying would be canceled. Daniel Hemrick would be on the pole based on the point system. After an early Connor Mozak spin, Chandler Smith and Hemrick would restart on lap 25, with Chandler Smith jumping out in front. Early on, Corey Heim is battling handling issues and drops from 4th to 13th following that restart. 12 laps to go in Stage 1. A big pile-up involving Ty Majeski, Frankie Muniz, Stuart Friesen, and Brandon Jones would occur. Chandler Smith and Tyler Ankrum would restart with 2 laps to go left in Stage 1. Smith would prevail, getting the jump and winning the first stage. Ben Rhodes would be able to pass Tyler Ankrum and finishes the stage second. After an early caution for Raja Carruth, Chandler Smith and Ben Rhodes would restart. 21 laps later, on fresher tires, Bailey Curry would pass Tyler Ankrum for second. On lap 122, and in heavy lap traffic, Curry would pass Chandler Smith for the lead. The final 5 laps of the stage stay green, and the second stage is won by Curry. After an early yellow on the final stage from Tony Breitinger, Carruth and Curry would restart on lap 168. Raja would get the jump and take the lead. After getting his truck dialed in on the pit stops, Corey Heim would get around Curry for second. On lap 223, Corey Heim and Chandler Smith would pass Carruth as he falls to third. 5 laps later, the yellow would fly for rain. But they would be able to restart with just 6 laps to go, with Chandler Smith and Corey Heim on the front row. Smith would get the jump. Kyle Larson from the second row would get past Heim. Would Kyle be able to reel in Smith? No, and Smith would go on to win by nearly a second over Kyle Larson. Congrats to Chandler Smith on his first win coming back into the Truck Series. Now for trivia time. With the Cup Series off next weekend for Easter, Trucks and Xfinity will be racing at Rockingham Speedway. This week's question is, when was the last time the NASCAR Cup Series raced there? Answer coming at the end. Now for the Xfinity Series recap. After qualifying, Kyle Larson in the 17 would win the pole, followed by Connor Zilisch. Larson would jump out to the lead after an early yellow. Justin Allgaier would pass Zilisch. By lap 50, Larson would have over a 2.5-second lead over Allgaier. A scary scene would occur on lap 76 when Sheldon Creed and Brendan Poole make hard contact, ending each other's days. But each drivers after the crash are okay. A red flag after that would occur. All lead lap cars would pit beside Sam Mayer and Ryan Sieg. After the restart, a quick 3 laps would ensue. Sam Mayer would win the first stage. Kyle Larson and Sammy Smith would restart the field to green for the second. After an early yellow in stage 2 for Harrison Burton, Larson would begin to dominate. By lap 143, he would have over a 5-second lead to Allgaier in second. He would continue to lap cars and extend his lead. Kyle wins the second stage. After an early yellow, Larson and Allgaier would restart with 76 laps to go. Again, Larson would rocket out and quickly begin to lap cars. Junior Motorsports car of Carson Cole would pass Allgaier for second with 3 laps remaining, but the race staying green, it would be won by Larson by a landslide. Congratulations. Moving right along to the Cup Series recap. Cup Series drivers would be geared up Sunday to go 500 laps at the Last Great Colosseum in Bristol, Tennessee. Alex Bowman would be on the pole, followed by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Bowman would jump out to the lead. By lap 32, Denny Hamlin would pass Stenhouse Jr. for second. Shortly after, Justin Haley and Kyle Larson would rocket up to second and third, passing Denny. On lap 41, Kyle Larson would pass Alex Bowman for the lead. After encountering lap traffic, Justin Haley and Denny Hamlin start to make up ground on Larson. After passing Haley, Hamlin would be under a second within Larson with 32 laps left in stage 1. Larson again would start to pull away. Things would get dicey when passing a lap car of Ryan Preece, but Kyle goes on to win the first stage. Larson and Hamlin would restart the field to start the second stage. Justin Haley would pass Denny Hamlin for second early on. Larson would lead. Yellow would fly on lap 178 for Shane Van Gisbergen and Cody Ware making contact and spinning. Again, it would be Larson and Hamlin on the ensuing restart. Pole winner Alex Bowman would get past Hamlin for second, but Larson would just be too strong, lapping cars and stacking up the lead. Kyle Larson would win the second stage. Surprised me just as much, but stage 3 at Bristol would stay entirely green. Just like the day before in the first half of the race, it would be the Kyle Larson dominance show. By lap 350, Larson would have over a 3.7 second lead over second place. On lap 390, Larson would join the pit parade, getting fresh tires. After Ryan Blaney would pit to complete the pit cycle, on lap 439, Kyle Larson would yet again take the lead back. Could Denny Hamlin in second catch him? With 53 laps to go, Larson's lead would only be half a second. As the laps counted down, can Denny reel him in? Larson had his foot on the metal and go on to win the race. Hamlin's chance at 3 Cup wins in a row is thwarted by Kyle Larson, who grabs the win. Congratulations to all. Look back at the predictions we made from Bristol. Trucks went with Heim. He battles his truck but finishes third. Xfinity went with Kyle Larson. He gets it done and wins. Cup Series, I went with Denny Hamlin to get the three-peat. He finishes second. Much better than the week before, in all honesty. Now for yellow flag, green flag. Trucks, yellow flag. Gets caught up in the early wreck. Part of racing, but expected more to Ty Majeski. He finishes 33rd. Trucks, green. Wasn't the finish he wanted, but green flag for Bailey Curry after winning the second stage. Xfinity yellow, wild ride for Brennan Poole and Sheldon Creed bringing out the red flag, but very glad they're both okay. Xfinity green, Carson Cole racking up another top 3 finish, finishing second. Only a matter of time before I believe he will rattle off a number of wins. Cup Series yellow, not Joey's best track, but expected a little bit more out of him. Joey Logano finishes 24th. Cup Series green, we were talking 2 episodes that he might be starting to turn the page. Ty Gibbs brings it home third. Can he continue the consistency? Now for discussions with Dave. The first topic this week brings us right into the hot news that has been going around some of the NASCAR podcasts. Kyle Larson After attempting the three-peat weekend in Homestead, Miami, we'll do it once again for the Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup Series in Bristol. Larson, as we know, will go on to win the Xfinity and Cup Series race. Kyle Larson was criticized on how many lap cars and how much of a lead he would rack up in the Xfinity Series action. Larson response was he really likes to do that. He likes to stick it to the Xfinity drivers, and it shows the Xfinity drivers what they have to work to if they want to make it to the Cup Series. We've been talking about the different series, Trucks, Xfinity, how some of those younger drivers just don't race with the level of respect that the modern day Cup Series driver does. Yes, there's a lot of people that don't like it when Cup drivers jump down into the Trucks Xfinity Series, and like a Kyle Busch, like a Kyle Larson in Bristol, they go on to dominate and win. There are two sides of this. In honesty, I do genuinely think it is better for the sport, and the only way to get these drivers respect is to earn it. And I think Kyle Larson is, yes, it might not make for the most enjoyable watching as a fan. Yeah, there are no cautions in stage 3, and it's green and it's a little bit boring with him just passing cars and cars. But I think towards the end of that season, it's only going to benefit these drivers, these younger full-time Xfinity and Truck Series drivers, watching these full Cup Series drivers make laps in front of them. Now, the next topic on discussions with Dave, PJ1. There was some tendering to the surface at Bristol. PJ1 was administered. If you're not familiar with the track substance, we're going to go over that. PJ1 track bite, formerly known as VT track bite, or simply VHT, is a custom formulated synthetic resin, specifically black in color, used in drag racing or other forms of racing to increase the traction of a car's tire to the track. It stays sticky for weeks, has fire retardant properties, and has been used in professional racing since 1972. NASCAR did reapply PJ1 in the lower grooves of the Bristol turns. As we saw in the spring race last year in Bristol, tire wear was such a big deal. And with the warmer temperatures, as expected, NASCAR decided to put down the PJ1 so they didn't run into a severe tire management issue that occurred last year. Some of the drivers weren't in favor of it and did not like the feel of it on their car. In the end, say what you want to say about the PJ1, we didn't see the tire wear issues we saw at the Cup Series. And it was definitely having the cars stick to the track because, as we mentioned, the final stage of the Xfinity race stayed green. But Lane Riggs, Truck Series driver, came out and said about the PJ1, NASCAR really knows how to screw up a racetrack. He felt like the bottom groove was the fastest way around the track, and if you weren't able to get down there, you paid the price. Sounds like Lane lost some track position and wasn't a fan. Typically, I haven't been the biggest supporter of NASCAR using PJ1 on the tracks, as it really can make a track like night or day sometimes if you're in the PJ1, if you're off the PJ1. But with the tire issues they experienced last year, the PJ1 in combination with those changes that Goodyear made does keep the tire situation mostly intact, and we don't see any unraveling we did last year. Next topic on discussions with Dave, Kasey Kahne returns. Kahne and the rest of the Xfinity Series will be back in action at the North Carolina Education Lottery 250 Saturday, April 19th, marking NASCAR's first national tour return to Rockingham since 2013. Kahne participated in the Xfinity and Truck Series practice at Rockingham before the season and said, "A lot of familiar faces for me. I didn't feel like I hadn't been here in 6 years. I know that. Even just hanging out in the trailer. behind the trailer for the first half hour this morning, waiting to get going. Just felt pretty normal. It didn't feel too different. So I guess when you put basically your whole life into just racing in NASCAR for that many years leading up to it, and then 16 years in the sport, to take a little bit time off and come back, still feels pretty familiar to me. Can't wait to see Kasey Kahne return, especially at a track like Rockingham, where NASCAR hasn't been for a number of years, but used to go year after year. Kahne, we know, still races full-time on the sprint car circuit. He was 8th in practice before the season. Can't wait to see what Kasey will do. Last topic on Discussions with Dave for this week. With the Cup Series having an off weekend for Easter, they are now officially a quarter way of the season through. Let's look back at our current power rankings. Expectations, surprises, and letdowns. Expectations, if you look at the top 4 of the standings, you have 2 Hendrick cars, William Byron, Kyle Larson, 4th and 2nd, and 2 Joe Gibbs cars, Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell. Each of those drivers have racked up multiple wins this season. But if you look a driver down in that 5th spot, unexpected, surprised, Josh Berry. He gets his first win at the Cup Series level earlier this year. Preseason expected him to be a bubble playoff driver, but now Berry cemented his spot into the playoffs with that win. Letdowns, if you look at the back of the standings, there's 2 names, in my opinion, that stand out. And that's Brad Keselowski in 31st and Daniel Suarez in 27th place. Both of those drivers got each a win last year. The biggest surprise, Keselowski. Brad has just seemed to be nipped by the bad luck bug at the beginning of this season. Nonetheless, he does have several tracks, specifically Talladega, where he's won at 6 times previously at the Cup Series. He should be able to rebound. Daniel Suarez, he's had his ups and downs through the Cup Series. Not too surprised to see him outside the playoffs at this current spot of the season. Just didn't expect him to be in the higher 20s. And that wraps up this episode's edition of Discussions with Dave. Now for NASCAR history time, Rockingham's historic races of past. In 1973, Benny Parsons entered the season finale at Rockingham with a comfortable lead. All Parsons needed to do was stay out of trouble and get a solid finish, and the championship would be his. On lap 13, Parsons found trouble, and he was involved in a 6-car accident that damaged the entire right side of his car. His team refused to give up as Parsons had his car repaired, if you can call having the entire right side sheet metal removed with the roll cage exposed as repaired. It's one of those things that would never again happen in modern day NASCAR. Parsons came back onto the track and ran just enough laps to finish in 28th place and win the 1973 championship by 67 points. It was Parsons' only Cup Series championship. 1981, Carolina 500. ESPN introduced to a fuel mileage thriller. In 1981, NASCAR on TV was starting to gain traction, and one of NASCAR's best TV partnerships began when Bob Jenkins and Eli Gold brought NASCAR to ESPN for the first time, and boy, it was a dandy. Cal Yarborough led 320 laps on that day, but the race came down to fuel mileage. Yarborough ran out of fuel with 24 laps to go, handing the lead to Richard Petty. Petty, who had won the Daytona 500 3 races earlier on fuel mileage, tried to stretch it again, but Petty could not. Darrell Waltrip would inherit the lead with 3 laps to go and outlast the field on fuel to win his second race of that season. Waltrip would win 11 races en route to his first Cup Series championship in 1981. Fast forwarding to 2004, the Subway 400, The Rock goes out with a bang. In 2004, the writing seemed to be on the wall for Rockingham Speedway. Low attendance figures, similar to North Wilkesboro, close proximity, the more prominent modern-day tracks called the track's future into question. Now relegated to one race, the track seemed to be on its way out, but it wasn't going to go out with a big last race. Defending Cup Series champ Matt Kenseth dominated that day, leading 259 laps, but he would have to earn the win in the closing laps. A three-way battle for the lead ensued on the final laps between Kenseth, Jamie Murray, and then rookie Casey Kane. The battle went all the way onto the final lap where Kane drove under Kenseth under turn 4, but Kenseth was able to edge Casey Kane out only by 1/100th of a second. It was Kenseth's 8th career win and first in 2004. Later that year, it was officially announced that Rockingham would be taken off the full-time Cup Series schedule, given to a second race, the Texas Motor Speedway. Now, drivers to look out for: Rockingham ARCA East. It's been more than a decade the ARCA Menards East Series last raced at Rockingham. That event, the season finale of 2012, featured a number of NASCAR stars, including Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and Bubba Wallace. Leading the charge to the return of the track, William Sawalich, the reigning and two-time ARCA East Series champ, is making his first start of the season in that series with Joe Gibbs in the 18. Sawalich is doing double duty this weekend, also competing in the Xfinity race. Sawalich will be joined by the most recent ARCA East winner, Brent Cruz, who is with Joe Gibbs as well. Cruz will drive the number 81 Toyota with a sponsorship with Mobil 1. Sigma Performance Services will hit the track with a pair of Chevys on Saturday. Tyler Reif will drive the team's number 23, while Spencer Gallagher, who will make his return to ARCA competition, will drive the team's 24 entry. Rev Racing will field entries for 3 drivers Saturday in Rockingham, 2 of whom will be making their ARCA Series debuts. That's Laney Boosie and Eloy Falcon Lopez. LeVar Scott will return to drive the number 6 Chevy for them. Venturini Motorsports will have 2 cars in the field. Jake Finch and Patrick Starpoli will hop in. Pinnacle Racing Group will field the number 28, and Austin Green will drive that. Kole Raz will be back in the East Series after 2 top 10 finishes at the ARCA level in Daytona and Phoenix. Other notable entries are Andy Jankowiak, Timmy Smith, Spencer Davis, Takuma Koga, Andrew Patterson, Caleb Koster, Isaac Kitzmiller, and several others. Was lucky enough to have ARCA driver Kole Raz call into the show. Here's what Kole had to say. Now we bring on ARCA driver out of the AM Racing stable, Kole Raz. Thanks for calling on to the show, Kole. Hot start for your ARCA season, and not easy feats to say the least. You get through carnage in Daytona and the overtime finish in Phoenix to secure a 6th place finish in each. How does the consistency early on at 2 different style tracks feel for you?
I feel like it feels pretty damn good, honestly. I feel like consistency is key within this series for sure, and just trying to get my feet wet, right, of going to these bigger racetracks. And to your point of going to Daytona and Phoenix, I was really looking forward to Phoenix, and we just struggled pretty heavily the first half there in March and made good swings throughout the race, but, ended up salvaging a 6th place finish, I felt like. But, Daytona was incredible, and almost survived it. We survived the race portion, but the cool-down lap we got to work on a little bit because we got caught up in that. But, no, it's been really good so far this year on the national level, and went to Pensacola there with the East opener, and I feel like we had a good shot to get ourselves a victory there, but just came up short to 18, and, man, that's a tough group to beat anywhere you go. So it was a good experience so far, and looking forward to this weekend.
Gotcha. Yeah, appreciate you touching on each of those races. Going back to the Phoenix, those restarts, as you know, are nuts. And anything you can take besides being extra aggressive going the next time you go there?
Yeah, that was the big thing I wanted to focus on. After my first race with AM back in November of last year at Phoenix, that was the one thing I really lacked on. And coming from the late model world, like the biggest difference for sure, obviously you got dogleg involved, but any ARCA race and anything moving forward, top 3 series, you got traditional box restarts where in the late model world we have more of a rolling start. So just getting more repetition and being comfortable launching quick and aggressive from the box is something I'm working on, and felt like we made improvements up until the last restart where, just had a poor choice to spin the tires there at the end. And, once you start fanning out throughout the dog leg and into one, it gets very hectic, but there's so much time to be made and spots to be gained. And, felt like we had a good chance to honestly get ourselves to top 5, if not top 3 on that last restart, but we just got together with a few other guys and kind of the rest was history. But man, that place is nuts. I mean, you got to be up on the wheel on restarts or, you're going backwards. So definitely a unique experience there.
10-4, I appreciate you going over the specifics of those. You mentioned the race in Pensacola, ARCA East, first race of the season there a couple weeks ago. You led laps in that race. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, Max Reeves would get past you late. Know that you wanted to win. How did you feel leaving the track Saturday night?
Man, it was definitely a mixed bag of emotions. First and foremost, I was extremely proud of my guys. I mean, Pickle and Curly, everybody at AM did such a great job. I mean, they had never been to Pensacola with the ARCA car, and Pickle himself, my crew chief, has never even seen the place before. So we all really put our heads together and gave my input from track characteristic wise from the late model Rome of what that place is like, and felt like we really unloaded with a good piece. And with the resources and the information that the 18 and the 28 car have and the amount of times that they've been running there, I was really proud of how we stacked up and was able to contend, and that's really all you can ask for. But obviously finishing second is never an easy pill to swallow, just because, we're all showing up wanting to win, of course. But
exactly,
we brought home a clean race car and a good points day, and, to go lead laps is definitely crucial. And the more and more we do that, I think we can, finally find ourselves in victory lane at some point this year and just kind of get a little bit better there.
10-4. Sounds like something you can build on. You will be back in the ARCA East seat this Saturday at Rockingham. It's been a long time since NASCAR has raced there. Have you had any seat time there, and what are your expectations?
So I've never been around Rockingham. I went to the Xfinity and truck test just to watch with the AM group with Harrison Burton, and that was pretty eye-opening to see, and just seeing the fresh repave and just how they're running, and obviously the speed. I mean, the speed is unreal. There's a lot of throttle time there at that place, and something I think for the ARCA cars, I don't think we're going to be out of the gas very long. So I think it'll be a pretty good show. And honestly, my biggest hope, and we'll learn Friday night, is if that place can widen out at all, which I think it will. There's going to be so much rubber put down Friday night, and something we're going to have to adjust for on Saturday. But that place has so much history, right? And I'm so glad it's finally back. It's so much history and a place I grew up watching, and to have it closed down for so long, and I'm just glad it didn't get too tore up as it sat. But I think it'll be a really good show for the fans. I saw it was finally sold out, so that's awesome, and hope the 3 series will put on a good show there.
As a race fan, totally feel the same way, but very excited for Rockingham. Happy that you mentioned that repave. Was watching the charts and everything from the truck and Xfinity practice. Really crazy to see those trucks run a little bit faster compared to the Xfinity car. But it says a lot about the repave as well. But I appreciate you touching on that. Next, ARCA Series race is the following weekend in Talladega. After you have the confidence from Daytona with the first race getting a top 10, how are you feeling looking at Dega?
I'm ecstatic, honestly. I know I have little to none super speedway experience, but I feel like our package was really dang good actually at Daytona. We just we struggled to find the right help, and being a few of the only 4 teams out there and was left over at the end, it was hard to find the right help. And Venerini and PGR, I know PGR is kind of the same boat with us, but Venerini and whatnot, I have so many friends out there, and it's hard to beat that. And thankfully Daytona worked out the way it did. But man, it's going to be all about finding the right help at the right time, and hopefully you can survive the carnage. And I think if we can bring a similar piece to what we had at Daytona, I think we're going to have a good shot to contend for a win. And it's kind of surreal to say, honestly, going to a place like Talladega for the first time. It's just these AM guys have really good hot rods, and I think we're all finally clashing together in the right way. So I'm definitely excited for these next 2 weeks.
Gotcha. I really appreciate you going over that. Can't wait to see what you and that AN team will bring.
No, it'll be good. It's just going to be a lot of good watching for the fans, and hopefully we can put on a good show for everybody.
Heck yeah. Really appreciate you coming on, Cole. Best of luck, man. We'll be watching you this weekend.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anytime.
Yep. Thanks.
Really appreciate Cole hopping on and appreciate his insight for Rockingham, specifically with that repave. Sounds like the cars will be flying throughout there on the weekend. Now the drivers to look out for the Truck Series for Rockingham. Looking at the statistics from their preseason practice there, Ty Majeski was top of the board. He was over 2.5 miles faster than Caden Honeycutt in second. Looks like those Thor Sport trucks will be tough to beat, with Jake Garcia and Ben Rhodes also putting top 10 times up. Of course, be on the lookout for Corey Heim. He was the fastest Toyota in that practice. Honeycutt, we mentioned his name. He was in second. Going to be another one to look out for. He was the fastest truck from Niche Motorsports. Do feel like a more experienced driver, such as a Ty Majeski, Ben Rhodes, or Corey Heim to win, just with how much throttle time it sounds like they're going to have at the Rock. Nonetheless, that's why they race. Still a lot of unknowns going into Rockingham. Now, drivers to look out for Rockingham Xfinity Series. Of course, you're going to have to look out for the big names of Justin Allgaier, Sheldon Creed, Austin Hill, and Sam Mayer. There were a number of drivers in the Xfinity practice that did surprise me. The driver that finished second that day, Ryan Sieg, we know what he can bring to the track. If he can put it together for Rockingham, a top 5 is not out of the question. Nick Sanchez had a top 5 day in the big machine racing car. Might be a longer shot, but if they can unload a quick piece, a top 5 day for Sanchez wouldn't surprise me. Now for Fast AV's bets for Rockingham. Unfortunately, the ARCA series isn't on any of the major sport books. Truck series, Ben Rhodes is plus 500 for a top 5 finish, and after back-to-back top 5 finishes, think he will keep it going. Xfinity, Taylor Gray is plus 250 for a top 5. We know how fast he's been this year. I think that will be a solid one for him. Now for the predictions for Rockingham. ARCA East. Hoping for Cole, but William Swalich, the 2-time defending champ of this series, first time in the car this year, think William will get it done. Trucks, give me Ty Majeski. After his dominance in the practice, he always seems to race well on older tracks. Even though there is a repave, thinks he gets it done on Friday. Xfinity, this one could be a toss-up, but in the end, give me Sam Mayer. Now for trivia answer time. This episode's question, as mentioned earlier, with the Cup Series off next weekend for Easter, Trucks and Xfinity will be racing at Rockingham Speedway. This week's question, which the answer can be found in NASCAR history time, is when was the last time that the NASCAR Cup Series raced at the Rock? Answer is February 22nd, 2004. As mentioned, the race was won by Matt Kenseth. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, a.k.a. Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He will be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He can be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias for midweek updates. Instagram, Facebook, and now YouTube are all Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert. Please check that out. Last but not least, hope everyone and their families has a happy Easter and a blessed one for sure. Make sure you're tuned in to all the action from Rockingham. Splash of Gas out. Till next time, everybody.